meeting of the Board of Trustees of Flower Bluff Independent School District for August 11th, 2020 to order at 6:03 p.m. Let the record show that all board members are present and accounted for. Good evening, Mr. Morgan.
Good evening. Good evening.
Madam Secretary, do we have any audience comments tonight? Okay, she's giving. No, we don't. Thank you. Okay, very good. Audience members, please be advised that the entire board informational packet is posted on the Flower Bluff ISD website under the link Board of Trustees. It can be accessed with any device with web access capabilities. The packet is developed by the superintendent and staff to provide information on the agenda items for the board. And there is a link provided there so that you can view the meeting as we go into it. All right. So welcome everybody. It's good to see all of you in this Brady Bunch mode again. We're going to move right into the meeting with action item 5A, discussion and possible approval of the Texas Education Agency waiver request to extend the start of the 2021 school year transition beyond the 4-week limit. Mr. Kelly.
Yes, Madam President. We had the presentation from Dr. Fergie, and he was very persuasive. If you recall, at the end of the meeting, I was saying, well, I was going to tell you at this point in time that I was going to be bringing back discussion of the waiver, but I don't know now. And I could tell that a lot of y'all were swayed by him. Ironically, I walk inside and my wife had recorded the news, and there was a news feature refuting about half of the things that he had said. Since that time, there's been more information coming in. It now appears that younger kids, may not get as sick, but they are capable of getting sick and are very efficient at spreading this virus. I believe some of you saw some of the stuff that Jeff has sent out. Last night I was watching ABC News. The CDC reported that there's 100,000 new kid cases in the last 2 weeks. For some reason, it seems to be surging among the kids. As a result, I just felt like we needed to revisit the option that we have of applying for a waiver, which would keep the school in the virtual mode all the way to October 5th, I believe it is. You see in different cases around the country where on opening day, kids are sick, they're having to modify what they're doing or shut down. And I am painfully aware that for many of our kids, school is the best thing in their day. It's the safest place for them. And you're not going to find anybody that wants us to get back to normal in terms of teachers teaching in front of kids and all the stuff that goes on. But us being in Corpus with definitely a hot spot, I wanted to bring this back to you. And the reason it's kind of worded a little differently is I thought that we had enough time for me to bring it back tonight just for discussion. And then if it looked like the board wanted to go that direction, then we could have another real quick Zoom meeting. But then I got to talking with Dr. Borgansky, and there is a week turnaround, approximately a week turnaround before you get the approval from TEA. And the way it states it, it says that you have to apply before the end of this first transition period. So I wanted to open it up so everybody could discuss it. And if it is something that you want to take action on, we can. But I have vetted this thing through Central. I've talked with the principals, and everybody is supportive of considering or recommended that we do go and apply for the waiver. So at this point, I'll open it up for discussion, and we'll go from there.
Okay, board members, if you'll raise your hands, I'll hopefully see that hand go up, and I'll call on you if you have a comment or a question that you have of Mr. Kelly. Mr. Morgan.
Yes, I tell you what, if that is a recommendation of Mr. Kelly and the administration, I think that we need to back that decision.
Okay. Any others? Mr. Rank?
Yeah. As you all know, I reached out to Dr. Fergie originally and asked him to come make the presentation at the last meeting. I'm very thankful that he did so. I still think we're very lucky to have an expert of his caliber in our community. I reached out to him again because literally, as Joe said, I mean, as soon as his presentation were done, as if it were almost timed, we started seeing new reports, and not just in the popular media, but also in journals like the Journal of the American Medical Association and CDC technical papers coming out saying exactly that you know, these conclusions earlier on that Dr. Fergie was listing, there might be some reason to cast some doubt on those. So I reached out to Dr. Fergie again with this new information, just to let y'all know. I heard back from him earlier today via email. He discussed sort of the specifics of the studies that I cited to him, and basically his conclusion was, let me just read to you verbatim the last line of his email. It says, "My main concern continues to be adult to adult and adult to child transmission. Strategies to decrease the problem should be implemented. Everyone wearing masks, physical distancing, and hand sanitizers." So, you know, Dr. Fergie brought up some really good points, some things sort of tertiary effects that this is going to have that I hadn't fully considered until he brought them up. For instance, the statistic he cited, that 20% of CPS referrals are made by schools. That scares me. I do a lot of CPS work, and I think his larger point that the school is sort of a central place where the community keeps eyes on each other. It certainly motivated me, as Joe said at the end of his presentation. I thought I knew exactly what the right thing was to do. But this science that's come out since then, if in doubt, we need to err on the side of precaution, because we're not messing around with something that is a minor issue. People are losing their lives to this, as we all know from recent events here. I mean, it's too important. So I very much support the administration's recommendation on applying for this waiver. And well, that's it.
Okay. Anyone else? Mr. Hooper?
One question that I have, Joe, is if we apply for the waiver, do we have to make a decision today that we're going to be virtual for that entire month, or can we wait till the next board meeting, go ahead and apply for it, get it, and then go make the decision?
Well, if we apply for it, Dr. Borgansky, Linda, do we have to go through it? Let me back up first though and tell you what the thinking was. That I've got the ladies set on go if it was the wish of the board to apply for the waiver. We could hit the send button tonight, and then my thinking was I would send something out to the community and our faculty saying that we have applied, we expect to get approved, and that we're sorry for any inconvenience, but this is, you know, as Jeff was saying, to err on the side of the safety and welfare of our teachers and students. And then I wouldn't put this in there, but on a side note, had several discussions about, I think in terms of hardships on the community, that continuing virtual for another 4 weeks would not, for the majority of the folks, would not be, it'd be more the same, okay? You know, sure, you're gonna run into those situations where, well, let's say grandma could only keep the kids until September 8th, but I think the majority of the folks would be able to flow with this pretty good. So back to your question, Linda, yeah, again, the whole thing, Jerry, was a matter of timing. I figured to go ahead and put it in there tonight, but Linda, can you speak to
Yes. we can continue with online, or if our numbers go down, we can start bringing kids back to the campus. We had also talked during, if we had some extension of our online, we might be able to do a maybe a hybrid type of instruction and bringing some of the kids back, you know, like we had talked about before. So there are options that we can investigate.
Yeah, I think if nothing else, this buys us some extra time. Like Jeff said, this thing is serious. It's serious over there, it's serious over here. Every place in the country, some more so than others, obviously, but this is not, this is nothing to mess around with it. I just feel like, and the staff feels like, if we had a little bit more time just to see which way it goes, and hopefully it starts going down, we would have that option.
Okay. Any other questions, comments from the
Jim,
board?
can you see Jim Friedman?
Oh, there, now I see his hand. Sorry, I didn't see it. Go ahead, Jim. I think you're, yeah, there you go. Unmute, yeah.
Yeah, okay, I should be unmuted at this point.
Yes.
Can you hear me all right?
We can hear you now.
Yeah, I thought Jeff's email was timely because I had sent Shirley an email saying basically the same thing that he was saying based on the same articles that he sent. And I had sent the presentation that we got, a summary of that to both my sons. One's a teacher and the other is has a PhD in biomedical engineering and is a manager at a Alcon plant in Houston where they've had some COVID cases and they have like daily briefings and so forth. And so I talked with Clark about it. He's the older son that works at Alcon. And after I saw, I mean, and Jeff's right. I mean, it's like 10 minutes after he finished his presentation, all this additional information came pouring out about these kid-to-kid transfers and the camp and the schools and all this stuff. And I asked Clark about that. I said, you know, what's going on? He said, well, right now, the scientists, whether it's medical people, safety people, whatever, epidemiologists, nobody really knows. You know, all you have is what's happened to today. And then, you know, next week things can change. And with schools closing and all of that, and a lot of the stuff that he was citing was international, where conditions might be different. Clark said that, you know, it's not that anybody's wrong. It's just that people just don't know. You know, you're just basing your assessment of the thing on what you know so far, and we're learning more every day. But I'll tell you, after reading all of the different articles and publications and stuff, and I, like Jeff, look beyond the media for my information, and I definitely would not feel safe putting kids in classrooms right now. And you know, if you look at the Corpus Christi numbers, our numbers, instead of going down, seem like they're ramping back up again. And I know it's hard to tell because of the data dumps that the state's doing, but yeah, I think we're still probably averaging 300 cases or so a day. I agree with applying for the waiver. I think we need to plan to use the waiver. And unless something really dramatic happens in the interim, you know, I think we need to be looking at staying in this mode for as long as it takes to be safe. Because, you know, what I said to Shirley was, if kids don't get the best education right now, we can remedy that in 6 months or a year, or, you know, next school year. We can go back and correct some of this. But if we get families sick and we contribute to this outbreak, and we have people die from this disease, there's no fixing that.
Right. Well, I on a personal note, my grandkids went back to school yesterday and today, and I'm very nervous. So anyway, I'm glad we brought it back up, because it wasn't just, you know, a couple of things that happened that kind of contradicted Dr. Fergie. it was like a landslide. And so I agree with everything y'all said. I appreciate your comments. And if it's the wish of the board, then we could entertain a motion, Madam President. And
Okay, and I think just before we do that, I appreciate all of the work that everybody's doing. I'm very appreciative of the board members staying on top of it as well, because that's important. Right now, we need to read everything we can read, and I see Mr. Morgan's hand.
and
Also,
Nicole also.
Peters.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I was just trying to let you know that you have another board member raising her hand there.
Where? I
Oh,
can't.
thank you.
Where?
Yeah.
Oh,
No, I just wanted to say, like, I had read some of those articles that came out too, and I know that Georgia, when I read about that Georgia camp, I read they were not wearing masks at that camp.
mhm.
Not that that makes any difference. I'm really torn on this issue because I certainly don't want to get anybody sick. I do think the best place for them is in the schoolroom with the teachers, but I feel like we could put plans in place with the masks and the hand sanitizers and some of that stuff, but I certainly don't want to be exposing anybody unnecessarily. And some of the stuff that just came out today was the CDC somebody from the CDC saying that once everybody's back in schools, our cases are just going to explode. But I don't know when this is going to get better. I don't know.
I don't either. Like I said, though, nobody wants them back in school more than I do, because there's just so many positive effects of that.
Mhm.
But this is different animals.
It is different, and we have to remember that the decisions that we make, we're making them for right now. It could change at any moment. And I think that's something, I don't like to use the word fluid because I've heard it so much, but the truth is that's it. And what I do know about our teachers and our administrators, I know that whatever happens here, we're going to be the best at whatever it is. If we're going virtual, then we're going to be the best at virtual education. I agree. 30 years in the classroom, I promise you that's the best place for kids. There's no doubt about it.
Absolutely.
But it's a little disconcerting, to say the least, to say the very least. So help me. Are there any other hands, any other board members?
Jeff.
Oh, there you go. Okay, Jeff, go ahead.
I just wanted to add, I agree with you, Ms. Thornton, very much about, from day one, I've been an advocate of following the science on this. And anybody that knows me knows that I very much believe in that. The unfortunate truth of the matter is that the science is evolving at a rapid rate on this, precisely because of what Dr. Needham said. We just don't know. That said, I think to Nicole's point that, the CDC said, well, after the schools open up, we may see an explosion in cases. I don't want our kids to be the canaries in this particular coal mine.
Mm-hmm.
That's not okay with me. And so I think that it's certainly the prudent approach to keep our kids where we know that they are safe for now, and until we have a little bit more information, until we can get a little bit further down the line. And if other schools go ahead and do it, well, hopefully we can learn from them and what happens there. So to that end, and to what Mr. Hooper was saying about using it or applying for the waiver, but not using it right away, I do think that it's important to allow families to plan ahead of time.
Mhm.
And so I think if we do apply for the waiver, I think that we ought to, just to give some semblance of certainty over the next couple of months, we ought to let people know that, yes, we're going to use it. We plan on using it until whatever it was, October 5th or whatever it is.
Yeah. I would agree with that in terms of the community, because I've thought about that, because that was one of y'all's concerns was, we need to help the community out. We need to give them some continuum, some sense of normalcy. But, I just think that this would be the right approach to go about it. So.
Okay.
Madam President, I would make a motion then that we apply to TEA for the waiver of the school transition year.
Thank you, Mr. Rank. And I need a second. I
I
see you, Mrs. Welp. Gotcha, Mrs. Welp on the second. Any other questions or comments? All in favor, if you'll hold your hand pretty close to your face, because then I know, then I can see it. Okay. Okay, there we go. Looks like 7-0. Very good. All right. All right, Mr. Kelly, that gives you some direction there. I guess you can take a
Well,
deep breath.
honestly, it makes us all breathe a little easier because to have a false start, so to speak, really would be disconcerting. So I've got Linda and Allison set up to hit the send button either later tonight or first thing in the morning. I'll put something out to the public and our faculty, tell them we have applied for it. We expect to get it. We're sorry for any inconvenience, everything that I said just a little while ago. And I'll make sure that you guys get a copy of it.
Good. Well, and let's face it, I mean, this in and out business, 2 weeks in, 2 weeks out, 2 weeks in, that would drive everybody crazy.
Yeah.
So this is better. This is better, I think, for everybody concerned, teachers, the parents, the kids, administrators. All right, so good. Let's move on. Item 5B, discussion and possible approval to discontinue free breakfast at primary, elementary, and intermediate campus. And I think that should say universal, right? Universal free breakfast.
Mhm.
So, Mr. Kelly.
Really, the rest of the items are Louise. So Louise, take it away.
Okay. All right.
Okay, we emailed some transmittal sheets to y'all just right before the meeting. Did everyone get them, or do we need to share them on the screen now?
I do have mine, but you might want to share it just for everybody's sake. Can you do
Okay.
that? Okay,
Okay, Alex, can you share those?
there you go.
Okay, we talked about universal free breakfast last fall, and there was a request to talk about it again. When we looked at it last fall, it was determined that we really didn't have enough time to communicate with our stakeholders and let them know we were going to make this change. And so we kind of opted to roll with it last year. So we've gone back and looked at the numbers again. And with our universal free breakfast, we began in the classroom, and then we went just to a universal in the cafeteria. There's a second page we'll look at in a moment that shows the history of the service that we've been providing. And the chart below shows the reimbursement rates versus the food cost. And we don't have labor reflected in there. We're just looking at the raw food cost. They have worked to lower the cost of the food. And so it has improved the cost factors from doing this. With our free and reduced, we had total reimbursements of 179. Now the free at the top line of 150, if you're qualified for a free breakfast, you're always going to get a free breakfast, and we're required to serve you the free breakfast. So below, we're not even looking at the free, just at the reduced and the paid. We do get a federal reimbursement on the reduced of $1.96 and 32 cents on the paid. If we did not provide universal free, they would pay 30 cents and $1.85 respectively. And so the missed funds are about 90,000. But the reimbursement, the loss from the reimbursement versus the food cost, the box below, is about 50,000. So we have a little missed revenue, but the cost factor is only about 50,000. There is some impact from labor, but we have to serve breakfast no matter what. And the bulk of them served are free. So it's not a pure, you're going to eliminate a lot of staff because you're not serving universal free breakfast. And then down below, she talks about, if you can scroll down a little, Alex, that basically if we remove universal free breakfast, we anticipate that we'll get 30 or 40% of our paid students who will no longer participate. You know, they won't come in early to pay $1.85 to get the breakfast they were getting free. So that would eliminate probably a lot of service and the cost. I think that they've worked hard on minimizing the cost of the meal. The impact is much lower than it has been. And with the pandemic, I still say that it's just not the right time to impact our families this way. And I would support that we look at it in the spring when things kind of go back to normal and we can communicate and roll it out there. And our participation has been declining. And as participation declines, the impact on the district of offering it goes down as well. If you'll bring up the second slide, Alex. And this is the history of the meals. And you can see in 17-18, despite not serving meals in August, we had much higher meal participation than we did in 18-19. And then with COVID in March, April, and May, we went to a curbside grab and go that wasn't under the school nutrition program. And so we only served those few months in the breakfast program. Excuse me. If you flip back on the previous slide, if y'all have any questions on that, any further information we can provide you.
Okay.
Is what we're looking at on the transmittal is if we do want to, that we make a motion to discontinue universal free breakfast, if that's how we want to go.
Yeah, can I comment, Shirley?
Yes. Yes.
My thought is I like the thought of being programmatic and changing in the spring. We addressed this, if you recall, last fall, and we didn't take it up for action. We were going to do that in the spring and it never happened. And so my suggestion would be, in order to, again, give people the time to adapt and the things that we need to do, that we do something today or at this point in time that would start in the spring. And therefore, we know that people would have plenty of time to communicate, deal with the issues, manage it, so on and so forth. So I would make a motion that we discontinue, but start it in January or the spring.
At the new semester, beginning at the new semester, is that what you're saying, Mr. Hooper? Okay.
Correct.
Any other questions or I can't see everybody now, so just chime in. There we go. Now we're back. Okay. Other questions or comments? If you'll just raise your hands. Let me see who's out there. Okay. I think I agree with what Mr. Hooper's saying. January, we need to go ahead and move on this. We did agree to do it kind of before. We just never got around to actually making this move. And Louise is right too. Maybe now's not a good time to, just, and I don't know how many people will show up to get the breakfast. I don't know. And how are we doing that anyway, Louise? How are we doing the breakfast when we're remote?
We are continuing with the distance learning. We're continuing the grab and go.
Okay.
That we give you a breakfast and a lunch item. They're have it picking up. They've expanded the hours of picking up, and they have it 2 meals at a time. So we only have every other day scheduled with the pickup, Monday, Wednesday.
Okay. Type
of scenario. And but it is under child nutrition now and not on the summer feeding. And so we will get the school nutrition reimbursement rates, which should be a little bit higher.
Okay.
And they have to show ID, and they will be, like the summer program is show up, you have a kid in the car, we're handing you food. Mm-hmm. And the school nutrition program is bring your ID or your student, and we're going to enter your PIN code just like you were in the cafeteria, and we're going to give you the food.
Okay, that was my question. And if they, so this will, I'm assuming, take place prior to the school day every day?
It'll start, I think I have Gina on the call. I don't know if she wants to chime in on the times. Here she is.
Yes, hello. Good evening. It starts at 7 a.m. and ends at 1:30.
Okay. So even if they miss the pickup for breakfast that morning, they can still get a lunch?
They'll get them all at once.
They'll get all of them. Okay. Okay.
Right. And so that helps. The universal free through this closure helps us because we don't have to worry about whether or not they qualify for the breakfast item. So if they come and they're a paid student, they can pay for their lunch and get their breakfast free included with it. So it does help our procedures there, I believe,
Okay.
in our operations there. And as we've said, if you're a free eligible student, then this doesn't impact you
At all. Okay. All right. Then I'll entertain a motion.
Jeff has his hand up.
I'm sorry, Jeff. I'm sorry. There you go, Jeff. Thank you, Mr. Kelly.
Thank you. I just had a question, and it's probably an unfair question for Louise, but with Mr. Hooper's motion that we discontinue effective in January, what is the impact? I know the sheet that we were all just shown said, for instance, eliminating free breakfast at this time or universal at this time would not result in a net savings of 50,000 due to participation decline.
Right.
I get that, you know, it's very hard to predict what the participation is going to be over this next semester, but is there any way you can give me a feel for whether or not, if we were to eliminate it in January, would that result in a net savings? Do we anticipate?
Yeah. Well, it should result in a net savings over a lot of different fronts, because if the production goes down, we're not going to buy as much food to serve the breakfast. Perhaps the staffing model changes a little bit. We can have one less person working on the breakfast prep and focusing on the lunch. And so there are some advantages if you can consider serving less children in a child nutrition program advantageous. So, but to quantify it right now is not an easy thing to do. And we'll be working with this guidance, depending on the motion, on looking at our budget schedule that we'll have in the final budget book. We provide that in the August meeting.
Any others? Okay. A motion.
I made the motion, so.
Okay. And would you just repeat it for?
I make a motion that we discontinue the universal free breakfast at the primary, elementary, and intermediate campuses for all those participants that are in it. Obviously, the ones that are receiving it as a part of the free because they qualify for it, they'll receive it and subsidized as well.
And did you want to add the date to that as part of
the spring semester, when the spring semester starts?
All right, very good. I need a second.
Second.
Thank you, Dr. Needham. Any other questions or comments? Mr. Rank.
I just have one comment. I'm a little bit uncomfortable with that idea just because of the uncertainty that our coming semester holds. I feel like kids that might not be eligible for free breakfast right now, their families are going to be enduring some economic hardships over the next few months. And because the lag in time for applications and in the bureaucracy that's involved, I just feel like there could be some kids benefiting next semester under our current program that wouldn't benefit if we did away with it. And things are in such flux. I'm just hesitant to do away with this program at this time, making plans even for January.
Louise, is it something that we could watch and then in our December meeting, our November-December meeting, is there a way to, we can always take it back.
The December meeting would not give, kind of like our July meeting wouldn't give the families enough notice before school started. And a December meeting with a change coming in January isn't a lot of notice to give families. And so.
But that would be but in January, we would be if we had to, we would be reinstating,
Reinstating, yes. Yes,
correct?
I think you, as a district, as a board, you could reinstate it at that point if things, depending on the economic and social impacts of the pandemic at that point. So yes, I think we could reinstate it.
Okay, so we could follow through with this vote and then watch it, and then you could come back to us and let us know how. I mean, we'll know, we'll all be watching to see what's going on too. And that would be something that we could rectify if we needed to.
Yes.
Okay. Okay. Any other questions or comments? All right, we have a motion and a second. All in favor, please raise your hands. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3, 4. What do I have? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And those opposed? 2. So it's a 5-2. Thank you very much. Okay. All right. Let's move now to item 5C, approve the bids for the capital projects for the primary elementary cafeteria roof. And this is, Louise, this is you again?
Well, I'm going to turn it over to Javier with CLK Architects and to Ronnie Robles. Okay.
Thank you. Good evening, gentlemen.
Good evening. Thank you. Ronnie, would you like to start or you want me to start?
I'll go ahead. What you have before you is is a recommendation from admin.
Oh, your boss is talking.
Is a recommendation for the board to approve this bid process that we went through. Javier Huerta with CLK was the architect on this job. Port Enterprises was the bid or the highest bid point valuation, or they got the highest point on the valuation. And basically what this is, it's a replacement, or not a replacement, but it's a overlay of the elementary roof at this time.
All right.
Do you need me to explain what we're doing to the roof?
Sure, go ahead.
So the existing roof, we had to do several analysis and tests because of the age of the building and because of the way it was constructed and because of the current laws, TDI and building code. So there was a number of different things that we had to go through in order to determine the best system. We determined we provided 3 different systems for the contractors to bid on. Of the 3 different systems, the system that we are recommending is the one that matches the existing, the adjacent library roof. And so these systems would be completely compatible. Same company that did the library roof would be the same manufacturer, would be the proposed roofing system. This will give you better continuity of the warranty. And the system that we selected is a system that that will give you a minimum, is going to give you 20-year warranty. And after 20 years, you have the option to add another layer of roofing over this roof and extend it another 20 years.
Okay. Questions, comments from the board? Oh, okay, Mr. Morgan.
Yeah, I just have a question on that warranty. Is that going to be a prorated warranty?
I don't believe so. I think it's a manufacturer's warranty. Let me see if I can pull it up. I can get back to you, but I'm almost certain the warranty is one of the best in the business. It's Ziplast. They're one of the best companies in the business right now.
And you said TDI. You're just talking about the windstorm compliance certificate?
Yes, because of the way the construction of the roof, the issues with the existing construction, we were limited on how many systems we could use. The other options was, extremely expensive, where you would have to demolish the existing roof and take it all the way down to the structure. So the system that we found is going to be a mechanically fastened system. We're basically going to put a sheething material on top of the existing roof. It's going to be screwed down all the way to the metal decking. And that system, is going to give you about a 30% greater performance than even the minimum TDI requirement.
Okay. Thank you, sir. Appreciate it. Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you. Anybody else? Anybody else have a? Okay, then I'll entertain a motion, please.
I'll make a motion that we approve the elementary roof recap as submitted.
Thank you, Mr. Hooper. And a second?
Second.
Okay, Mr. Rank, I saw that. Okay. Any other questions or comments? All in favor? It's like 7-0. Thank you very much. Thank you, gentlemen. We appreciate that.
Thank you.
You're
All
welcome.
right. Let's move on to item 5D, approve the resolution regarding pay during the pandemic. And I believe this is you, Louise.
Yes, we are in conversations with Mr. Beekler and do not have this item ready to bring forward now.
Okay.
And so we don't need to have a motion on it, and we will be bringing something in August.
Okay. So we'll move this to the regular meeting. Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. All right, that gets us down to 5E, consider approval of legal authority to apply for coronavirus relief fund. And is this also, Louise, is this you?
Yes.
Yep.
It's all me. No. Actually, this is all the government at work. This is more of the CARES Act relief. It's the CRF funding that they have awarded us from. It stood up about the time we were closed, and it cuts off on May 20th. And will cover PPE and some of those things. Now, with this one, they have the requirement that the board gives us the okay to apply for it. And so we have to have it in the minutes of a board meeting that we discussed that we were going to apply for it and that the board was okay. So we have not started finding all of the expenses. We don't know how much will actually get awarded during that limited time frame, but certainly any dollars that we can garner for our efforts are in the school district's best interest to apply.
Okay. Questions? Comments? Nobody ever questions free money if we can get it. That hardly ever gets questioned.
Right. President, I make a motion to approve the legal authority to apply for the coronavirus relief funding and authorize the superintendent and then the chief financial officer as the official representatives to just apply for this.
Thank you, Mrs. Welp. And a second?
Second.
Thank you, Ms. Peters. I appreciate that. Last chance for questions or comments? All in favor? All right, 7-0. Very good. All right. At this point, we will be moving into the budget workshop. This is item 6 on the agenda. Louise, I think we're still with you.
Yes, and Mr. Puente will bring up our slides and we'll rock and roll.
Very good.
Let me just interject here. I've been around Louise, visiting with her back and forth on all of this, and I want to commend her for her work. She has really put a lot of time and effort in it, and I think it's going to show. So anyway, thank you, Louise, for your efforts.
Yes, we appreciate that.
And I have to commend, I do have my staff support here, and especially Emily, the Director of Finance, helping with all of these numbers and presentations. It takes a whole team, and I couldn't get it done without their help.
Yeah. It's a big job.
Yeah. All right, the first slide. I don't have a magic button. There we go. Just another update on where the year looks. We have a little less spent, so the projected balance from operations has gone up a little bit. And then we have our planned use of fund balance and the potential transfers and the ESSER money that will get moved out of the TEA funds into a separate grant. So looks like our ending fund balance will be just shy of 18 million. So a little better than we started out. I want to go back over our tax rate considerations and where we were. We have the state rate. They did come out and tell us our compressed rate is the 0.9164. That's been confirmed. We weren't able to publish a rate or go forward until TEA told us that rate. So that came out as we expected. The voter approved pennies that we already have are 4. We have the opportunity to add the 1 penny under a unanimous vote of the Board of Trustees. And on the next slide, what that cost to a $100,000 homeowner is $10. And it still gets us about 600 to 700 in funding. And on the next slide is a comparison of Flower Bluff to the area school district tax rates. So we continue to be the lowest of all of our competitors. You know, if you picked your house up and put it in London, you're paying a whole lot more in taxes. If you picked your house up and put it in Calallen, CCISD, Toloso, anywhere, you would be paying a much higher burden for your education school district tax. So the next slide has our budgeted revenues that we've presented. The left column is with the penny as I originally presented. The next column is without the penny, and it will reduce our budgeted income by $665,000. Now these numbers without the penny, I had to take the OMAR template and take the penny off and recalculate tax rates and efforts and all kinds of numbers. So these are pretty hard numbers comparing apples and apples to taking that penny off. But you can see the state rewards that golden penny, and we garner $352,000 from the state. We actually garner more from the state than we do from our taxpayers in total. So the state is bearing that burden of that. And when you look at the history of our tax rates on the next slide, I don't know how much y'all read on the Truth in Taxation that they blew it all up and renamed all the rates that we compare. They talk about a no new revenue tax, a voter approved tax, and no new M&O. And they've just kind of shook it up and renamed everything. On the next slide, I have the rates as we're used to seeing them. And last year's rate was 97 cents for M&O. The rate to maintain the operations revenue and pay debt service is $1.07 for M&O. That goes through some Truth in Taxation. If you only had your property you have minus any new exemptions, how much would you have to tax to get the same revenue? And one of the things that impacted us this year in those calculations is the Barney Davis plant received a $14 million pollution control deduction. And so that's one of the things that really drove that rate up. So we're proposing a rate of 96.64, which is below last year's rate. And the rollback rate we'd have to have an election over is $1.07. So with our penny, we're below any, we're below in the last year's in any of the measures that we are compared to when we advertise our tax rate. Now the vote on the tax rate has to be unanimous. And so if we would bring a tax rate after the hearing next month and adopt the tax rate with a non-unanimous vote, we would trigger a voter ratification election. They've changed that name too, because it would be beyond the proposed rate would be beyond the board approved rate of 956. So we'd have to go to the voters for the penny. And so probably what we'll do is bring a motion to approve the penny and then bring a motion next month to approve the tax rate so that we don't inadvertently call an election. So any questions on tax rate?
I
Okay,
can't see
just
everybody.
speak
so I don't
up
know.
because I can't see everybody.
Yeah, I
So
can't see
got a
everybody. either.
question?
Yeah. There we go. Any? Okay, I don't see any hands.
Okay. So we can go back to the presentation and talk about are you in display mode, Alex? Yeah, I think you're not sharing the right screen. So we'll wait for him to get up. Yes, the next is our slide for budget cuts. If you need a late night laugh, I suggest Googling cartoons for school budget cuts. One of my favorite was a classroom chalkboard that did not have the whole alphabet, and it said that's all they could afford. The first 10 letters.
Gee.
Okay. Well, hopefully Alex will work that out in a moment. Because we're not seeing your display screen, we're seeing the multi-screen. But what I'm going to walk through next, we've talked about so much of our budget being fixed and controlled by factors that we don't necessarily control at this moment in time. So what I've done is take our entire budget and break it down in parcels of required spending, our maintenance budget, data processing and contracts, and employee professional contracts, and then other. All right. Speed along. Okay. First graph. So these are the areas of our fixed expense. So on the next slide, we talked last month about our required spending. We get this revenue from the state, and then we have all this required spending. So of our revenues from the state, there's almost 8 million are earmarked on what we must do with those funds. And then on the next slide, as part of this 20%, I don't know how familiar you are with the concept of special education MOE, maintenance of effort. We're required to maintain our expenditure level year over year. And so our MOE exceeds 5 million, while our required spend is 2.5 million. And so we've had to add the 2.5 million on top of the required spend to equal this 20% pie. So that's 20% of the budget that's spoken to by programs that we're required to offer, be it special ed, career and tech, early education allotment, all of those things. And they were greatly increased with House Bill 3. So the next budget area is 13% of our budget, and that's our maintenance budget. So this is an interesting chart. It is based on our current insurance values coupled with the year things were built. So the most notable is that 78% of our facilities, based on value, were built before 1990. So that is a substantially aged facility. So if you look to the 1980, the tallest column there, you can see how much of those columns were done before then. And then in the 2013, we started the construction project, and that's reflected in that last column. So with and the other thing in the maintenance budget is utilities. You know, the city of Corpus Christi, we have higher water rates, higher sewer rates, just as everyone experiences at home. We've had an increase in the energy use. And so we've had to continually increase those budgets, as well as our property insurance has gone up with windstorm last year significantly. We've budgeted in an increase this year. So in good conscience, with our aged facilities, that I can't see cutting our maintenance budget, because we just have, you know, continual maintenance issues to crawl over. Does anyone have any questions on maintenance?
No.
If you just shout out,
Yeah,
he
just
won't
speak
lose
up
his
because we
screen
can't see
again.
you.
Okay.
Okay.
The next area of the budget is our data processing and contracts, and that's 3% of the budget, but it's all fixed in nature. It's our Skyward software, our talent ed for recruiting and hiring. We have to pay the appraisal district, the tax assessor. We have to have elections. We have bonding and transportation insurance. We have dues. We have audit services, attorneys, professional consultants. Our chairs at JJAP are all fixed. And so we can't adjust that piece of the budget either. So the next piece of the pie on the next slide is this 49%. These are all of the contracts paid and Object 619, which is our professional employees. And these are the employees that aren't in one of those other classes like career and tech, special ed, any of those spending requirements. Those employees aren't included here. These are the other employees. So that takes another 49% out of our budget because we've already signed contracts, hired everyone, and issued. So at this moment in time, that's another parcel of the budget that we can't cut. Any questions? On the next screen is what's left. So we have 15% left. And what's in this 15%? Well, our substitute teachers, our stipends and extra duty pay, our paras, bus drivers, security, the non-professional employees are 3.7. So what's left of that number is 2,750,000. So we go on the next slide, and here's what's in that 2,750,000. And the next slide, Alex. Okay. The transportation cost of fixing the buses, gassing them up, that type of thing. Athletic cost, which is your teams, your referees, all the charges related with having all the sports. Then there's classroom and student experiences, which are everything from UIL to just the animals to dissect in biology or that type of thing, and our library expenses. And then we have teacher training and curriculum. And then we have the supplies training for nurses and counselors, the student extracurricular. I'm sorry, that's really where the UIL, most of that's in the student extracurricular. And then we have security, contract and supplies, and administrative expense, which is, dues, training, bills, things that fall under the superintendent, the administration office, or the board expenditures there. So that's not a big list to cut from. It's difficult to have a lot of impact from that list. But we have gone on the next slide, and we have literally gone back through every line of our payroll budget, looking at a 3-year comparison, looking at the positions filled. The budget actually takes out the teacher that retired and puts in the new price of the new teacher, whether it's good or bad. We've done extensive work on it, and even more since the last meeting. And we have reduced the budget overall by just over a couple $100,000. And all reductions were made outside of those required spending realms, that we talked about. The miscellaneous contracted services, we reduced by 15%. General supplies, we reduced by 15%. Employee travel, we reduced by 20%. And the non-athletic student travel reduced by 23,000. And maintenance, we had about 50,000 budgeted last year for equipment, and this year we reduced that by 50%. So, questions?
What's the non-athletic student travel?
Some of the UIL or field trips, some of those things.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
I have another question about that non-athletic student travel. One of my concerns before so much has happened since last March, was in particular how much support we're giving to programs like the theater program or like the math team, Mr. Gillespie's math team, those sorts of things. And right now, I know in particular with the math team, they're just scraping by selling their own T-shirts and things like this to be able to pay for things. Are we making cuts there, or are we talking about, you know, teacher field trips and things?
Yeah, we looked more, some of them are some of the cuts are in some of the larger travel categories, but I know the math team, while it may feel like it is scraping by, they do have a substantial budget for what they do. That program is supported and will continue to be supported by the district. We tended to look at like 3 years history and not just, you know, arbitrarily where they haven't spent it in 3 years, carved the budget, you know, back rather than truly cutting back the experiences.
Okay. So in specific, we're not making it. I'm particularly proud of the math team because they're 34 years running state champs.
Yes.
I mean, that's just phenomenal.
Yeah.
I want to make sure we're not making any cuts to the math team when we're doing this.
Yeah.
Is that what I'm hearing, that we're not making any cuts in particular? Okay, that answers my question.
Okay. The next slide is the revised budget updated. Still a negative budget. That number is still reflecting if we adopt the 1 penny increase in our tax. So that will, if we don't, that would be 1.2.
It would be 1.2 if we don't adopt the penny.
Well, it'd be 1.3. Sorry, my mental math is worn out because it's 600,000 in loss of funding added to the 713.
Okay.
Okay. So we have the usual budget by function, which is going to be a little hard to read on the screen, a little easier in person. And this just breaks it down in the categories that we adopted by function. And for the most part, we have a slight decrease in function 11, increase in the leadership. Part of that's the positions that we changed this year and added. The total student support services have gone up. The administration gone up slightly. The total support services non-student based has gone up, but that is maintenance, security, standing up a police force, having the cost of maintenance operations, the insurance and utilities going up as the result of that increase. Community services are similar and the fiscal agents are the same. And the overall budget over last year's budget is an increase of 600,000, which we did approve. All the positions and the revising that we were doing was easily about 400,000, and then a little more standing up the police. So, and our enrollment update, last year in September we had 5771. We sit right now at 5463. I think the enrollment is pretty mirrors what's going on in the community. You know, high schoolers, we're up 56 students right now. They're feeling bulletproof. Pre-K and pre-kin and kinder, we're down significantly. I think people are slow to register. I think they're slow to make that decision to put their babies anywhere. These numbers don't usually settle until September. We expect them to keep going up. We just don't have a firm grasp in this pandemic where we're going to land. We have a few less transfers right now than last year, but we're still getting applications. So there's some expectation, you know, if these numbers were the reverse of what they are, then we would look at a different budget picture. But right now, the budget's based on where we ended the year at 5355, which is an ADA number, not an enrollment number. It's the enrollment adjusted for attendance. Okay.
Louise, what does an average student benefit us if we were to pick up 10 students? I mean, per student, how much do we see as a benefit from the state?
It's a moving target after House Bill 3 because it really depends on whether I just picked up a career and tech student,
right,
and economically disadvantaged, an ELA, a dyslexia. There are so many weights, but in general, the state funding is, you know, 8,000 or 9,000.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So we could easily see, if we saw a jump of 100 students, we could see easily an increase of $800,000.
Yes.
Louise, I have a question on the numbers there in that second column are as of September 19th, I guess, of last year.
Yes, right. That's off of the 8-year enrollment presentation we bring y'all at the beginning of school every year.
Okay. And then, of course, the numbers in the third column there are as of August 10th.
Right.
And are those about on track or higher or lower than where things were on August 10th of last year?
A little slower.
Or do we know?
Yeah, a little. We feel it's kind of a feeling as you talk to the registrars and the PEMS people that are in the trenches getting them put in. We feel like they're a little slow. There are people who just haven't decided they want to send their children back to school, and so we think it's a little slow. Historically, we have a jump after Labor Day in enrollment every year, which is one of the reasons that we bring that report in September. Because in the past, the military would move everybody around in September. So we'd get a change in our military students, and people would just, for whatever reason, thought you didn't come back to school till after Labor Day. So, yeah. So I basically wanted to just give you we're staying with our conservative. We budgeted the same. The first 2 months do have that hold harmless, which isn't as high a number as we would like, but it certainly is a floor to hold us up through this beginning of the pandemic. But as we look at salary recommendations, that's something that we needed to consider as well. And so I have my who knows on the salary slide if we advance that one. Alex, you awake? There we go. And then the next slide, I did put the recommendation that we freeze salaries. The current enrollment trends aren't supporting a raise, and it's difficult to consider in the current economic climate. We still, we looked at the slides in the past of what happened when the state was in the financial situation that they're facing right now to schools. And so,
Louise, would you review quickly what you said to us last time about the health insurance?
Right, that we're running a little over, and they are bringing changes in the plan to try to bring that in line, and we will probably have increases in health insurance as everybody is, across the state, but that'll happen in January this year. And then we are renewing our contract so the following year we can go to a September enrollment. So they'll enroll in January for 21, and then in September following they'll enroll going forward.
Without a change in the rate?
Well, no, without the administrative fees going up. I mean, because we're a self-insured health fund, we pay administrative fees so that Aetna runs our plan. And then we pay stop-loss insurance, and then we pay the actual claims. So the wild card in all of it is the actual claims. And so that's what the stop loss insurance is in for. And so we're working with Burke Sunday to work on plan changes and everything, and we'll face the music when we get the stop loss renewal, and it'll be later in the fall on that.
Okay.
But there is a potential, and hopefully maybe we have a better financial and we won't have to burden the employees with the increase, but we just won't know until we're closer down that road.
Let me jump in for a second. Last time we discussed this, I appreciate the board wanting us to try and find a way to give some sort of salary increase. And I know, like I was saying at the first of this, that Louise has gone back and forth with this, and it's just not there. But what I stated last time was if ever there was a time that, you know, I think our troops, our people would understand it, it's now. And talking with Louise, the last time we've been so blessed in the Bluff, we've always been able to give some sort of little raise, except back in 2008 when things went south. So again, I think people, I talk with a lot of people who are just thankful to have a job. So, you know, I can very easily convey to our staff that you guys as a board wanted Louise to look and try and find out something. It's just not there this year. So for what that's worth.
Okay, questions, comments from the board? Again, I can't see everybody, so Mr. Rank, go ahead. I can
Just
see you.
a quick comment. To what Joe just said, that in most years in the past, we've been able to give some sort of raise. I'm extraordinarily proud of that because the teachers and the staff are where the rubber meets the road, obviously, and our support of them, you know, just can't be overstated. But the reason that we've been able to do that, I think, is testament to the wise financial decisions and the prudent and responsible decisions that we've made in the past when times are down. For instance, 2008, as Joe was saying, I think this is one of those times where we just have to make sure that we're able to weather the storm, like y'all were just talking about with the unknowns in insurance this year, with the unknowns in COVID. There's just so much that I certainly agree. It's time to weather the storm. I hate to do it. I really do. And thank you, Louise, for trying so hard, and thank you to your staff trying so hard to find this. I know that you all did go line by line on it.
Yeah, it's greatly appreciated because I think it hurts all of us deeply too, not to be able to give them a little something this year. But I have to agree with Mr. Rank. It just, I mean, the numbers aren't lying to us, I don't think at all. Any other comments? Okay. All right. Thank you, Mrs. Day. We appreciate it.
Yeah.
All your work, your team's work.
Thank you. So we'll have the hearing in conjunction with the regular meeting next month or this month in mere weeks, and we'll publish in the Caller Times that information and that tax rate. Okay.
All right.
So I think we finished the workshop and
we're ready to go back to now the action item 7, which says approval of the 2020-2021 compensation plan. So what's the?
We're recommending that we just have that we continue with the same plan, that we have a frozen plan.
Okay, so I need a motion to indicate that. Do we have somebody who's out there wants to do that?
Madam President, I certainly don't want to do it, but I think that we owe it to everybody. I think it's the right thing to do. So I'm going to move that we accept the recommendation of the administration and that we adopt a frozen compensation plan for 2020-2021.
Thank you, sir. And a second?
I second.
Thank you, Mr. Morgan. Okay, any other questions or comments? All right, this is going to be a hard one to ask for. All in favor? Okay, thank y'all. And I thank everybody. I hope everybody understands. I really pray that they do.
Well, again, Madam President, I will get the word out of what y'all's intention was and how hard, staff looked at it. It's just not there, but I will make sure that that our faculty and staff understands that y'all very much wanted to. Just not there.
Okay, thank you, sir. We appreciate that.
You bet.
Okay, thank you, Louise. Oh, Dr. Needham, go ahead.
Just a quick comment. I don't know how long we've been on the board. Shirley, do you remember how many years?
I think we're working on our third tour, so I think 10 years.
Okay.
10 years.
Yeah. So, Joe, I think it's worth communicating that in the years that Shirley and I have been on the board, every year when we come to budget, the number one thing that we're concerned about is ensuring that our faculty and our staff get a pay increase and that they get as much support on the insurance as possible within budget guidelines. And, for me, this is an unpleasant task, but I really don't see any other alternatives. The key thing here is any commitment that we made, even if we went and made a stretch this year, is a commitment that we're making from now on. And,
right.
Things are uncertain this year, well, they're certainly going to be uncertain next year. But please communicate that it's always this board's priority. The first thing that we look at in budget is our faculty and our staff and trying to do our best to reward them for their service. We know they don't get paid what they're worth, but they do get paid what we can afford. Thanks.
I certainly will. And I feel certain that they will understand. So I'll get that word out.
Okay. Thank you. Any others? All right. Well, again, thank you, Louise, and your team. I guess at this point, we are now moving on to item 8, personnel recommendations. Am I in the right spot? Yes. Do I have a, okay, do I have a motion for that?
I'll make a motion that we approve the personnel recommendations as submitted.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Hooper. In a second.
I second.
Mrs. Welp. All in favor? Okay, very good. Thank you. 7-0. All right, at this point, Mr. Kelly, do we need to move into closed session?
No, Madam President, I don't see any reason. I don't have any reason to take us into closed session. We're going to have another meeting shortly. So if there's something that comes up, we need closed session at the August 7th meeting, we can do it then.
Okay, so we're good to go on that. Okay. All right. I guess we're down to announcements then.
Just like y'all, I have not been able to quit thinking about David. And I just wanted y'all to know that I'm sure most of you are aware that there are some services at Seaside this Saturday. I believe visitation is 9.
9. Mm-hmm.
And Kim Sneed has been making me aware of what David's sister's been posting. With the coronavirus, there's only 65 people that are allowed to go, and you got to wear a mask, all the protocols. But we do have a group from central office going, and we have been discussing ways to continue to be there for Dr. Freeman's family beyond the services. And I just, obviously I won't be there, but I know Shirley, you talked about going.
I'll be there.
So Kim, can you give us a little details of that? Do I have the times right? 9 o'clock visitation, 10 o'clock services, or?
10:30, I think, on the service.
10:30. 10:30 are the services. That's
Monica sent out an email too to everybody with
correct.
it.
Yes. Yes. We sent out a district-wide email. Do you need an email to the board? Is that what you just asked, Ms. Peters?
Oh no, I thought one did go out.
Oh, we sent a district-wide email.
Okay.
Yeah. The 65 number is, can y'all hear me? I think I froze up.
We can hear you.
Okay, good.
Hear you.
After there's 65, yeah. Can y'all hear me still?
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Okay, I'll just talk because I'm like real frozen. There's about 15 or 20 that the family has to account for them. And then so
Okay, now we lost her.
Yeah, you are.
Um,
I think there's an overflow room is what I understood as
that
well.
live stream from the Seaside Funeral website.
Yeah.
And so, and then the visitation at 9, you kind of just go in, pay your respects and leave. So you can do that as well.
Okay. Anyway, the point is we have some folks representing the school that will be there Saturday morning. And I have not reached out to Cassie since David has passed, but I'm going to give it a few days afterwards. My better half said, you probably have more of an impact if I just waited until you get past the services and then contact her. But what I wanted to know is that, in Flower Bluff, we are family and we will continue to support her in any fashion or form that we can. So anyway, that's all I have, Madam President.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Mm-hmm.
All right, time for trustee remarks. Let me start. I'm going to start where I see you on my page. Ms. Peters, you're first.
Okay. Well, I can't stop thinking about Dr. Freeman either. So that's been, I imagine everybody's the same way, and that's really what's been on my mind. But I'm just so thankful Mr. Kelly's here to help us, and that everybody's working really hard to get the school started and going for the kids. So thank you guys all for your hard work.
Thank you. And all right, I'm going along here. Mr. Rank, you're next.
Of course, Dr. Freeman and his family are on my mind. As we were talking about the limits on what we can do at his funeral or on the people there, it occurred to me one of Dr. Freeman's pet projects in his short time here was the police force. And as we move forward with the police force and we see how that's going to look, and we see what physical facilities might be required for the police force, I'd like to keep it a possibility that we name the police force or some sort of physical facility in his honor, because I think that was very much his baby while he was here, and he moved us forward in a remarkably fast and good way. So it just occurred to me as we were talking about the limits of what we can do at this time, but maybe as we move forward on that, we can keep that in mind.
I was just going to say that I've got 3 folders to go through. I've already been in touch with, what is the gentleman's name? Mr. Cervantes has been doing some consulting work on this. And I plan on bringing a report in the August meeting on the 27th to kind of catch us all up to date. But that's a great idea in terms of possibly naming the actual facility. So thank you.
I like that.
And other than that, what can one say in such extraordinary times? Thank you all for all of your work. Extraordinary times certainly reveal extraordinary people, and I believe that Joe Kelly is one of those people, and I'm very glad and grateful that he is at the helm and helping us get through these times.
Thank you very much.
That said, we had some hard decisions as a board tonight, and I'm honored to serve with each and every one of you. Thank you.
I am too.
Dr. Needham, looks like you're next.
Not really anything I can add to that. Yeah, Dr. Freeman and his wife and children are on my mind every day. And, you know, I hope that over time we can figure out some ways to help and to honor Dr. Freeman. And I like Jeff's idea. And just a terrible loss for this district and for each of us personally too, because I know all of us considered him a good friend.
Absolutely.
I really don't have anything to say beyond that. I do appreciate all the work that everybody does, and I, like Jeff, am grateful for having fellow board members and such a great faculty and staff and administration that make it possible for us to be able to do this job, because it's not an easy job right now. Thanks.
Tough one. Thank you, Dr. Needham. Mr. Hooper, you're next.
Well, I want to first say thank you, Joe, for the honor of having Mr. Freeman as our superintendent. You helped us find him, and we would have never met that individual had it not been for you and bringing him to us. And it was fantastic period of time having him on board. So, you know, I obviously we're going to miss him, and there's no better person in the interim though than you, Joe. You get our full support. You know, I do feel for Cassie and the kids, and you know, whatever we can do to help them, I know we as Flower Bluff will do that. So we'll get through this, and we'll work through it together. And I appreciate every one of you. I want to say thank you, Louise, for taking the hard looks. I know I see your car there early in the mornings. I go by there very early, and I see pretty much you're there working all these issues. It is a tough situation, and we just have to work through them. And that took a lot of work, I know, to pull all those numbers together. So thank you for that. And I look forward to the next meeting, you know, working through the rest of this. It's not easy decisions that we have to make, and whether we delay school, you know, as far as back to school in person or not, those are all tough. We've got to look at them. So I appreciate everybody's help, and working through the last week has been interesting. I can say that.
Mr. Morgan.
I can't add much more than what's already been said, except to thank you to Joe and your team. And let's just keep Dr. Freeman's family in our prayers and our thoughts. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. And Mrs. Welp?
Thank you. Can you hear me okay?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Okay. I know our hearts are just broken, and I can just say the same things about Dr. Freeman and Dr. Kelly, but it occurred to me that, you know, what is unique about all of us that are here is you can tell that our heart and our passion is for Flower Bluff Independent School District. And whether you work in the building or you teach virtually, or you're a parent on here like I am, or a principal or faculty or whatever it may be, it's just so, during these unusual times, it's so overwhelmingly good to know that our heart is with this district, and we want this to just go seamlessly and just prepare for the unexpected. And just like David would say, you know, we got this. Let's move forward with a positive attitude and a positive outlook. And while we made some tough decisions tonight, the thing that occurred to me is that it's all about the safety and the health of these kids and our staff and our teachers. And so while it is a local decision, they are putting that on us. I appreciate the fact that you all in administration and in the school have weighed in your input and recommended that we do apply for the waiver just for this short time until we know more. And so I could go on, but it is an honor to serve Flower Bluff. This is my heart and my passion for these kids and you guys. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Mrs. Welp. And I have had some good conversations with Cassie, and I just want to share with you that she is overwhelmed by the kind of love and kindness that has been shown to their family. And she just, and because we just adopted them right away into the fold. They're part of this group. And I'm going to tell you, as all of you know, I spend a lot of time talking to old timers and writing the history and getting their take. And the one thing they all have in common that draws them together is that they went to school at Flower Bluff. And it's something that they don't ever forget, whether they work there, went to school there, have their kids there. Everybody's connected through that school. And just to prove that, I just received today from the city the results of a survey for the Flower Bluff Area Development Plan, and listed there people who took the survey, and there were nearly 500 people who took it. The question was, I'm not going to get it exactly right, but the question was, what is it that draws you to Flower Bluff? What is it that you think is the heart of your community, basically? And nearly 50% of the people said the school. The school. And that speaks volumes to what we're about. It also tells, I want to say to all of those people who are considering whether or not we're going to do this. We are going to do this, and we're going to do it well. And I had an opportunity to speak with a couple of teachers who are doing this already, and they see it as a challenge. It's taken them out of their comfort zones, but they feel like they're growing exponentially as teachers. They've known what to do all this time, but now it's something new. And starting the year is a whole lot different than ending the year. So I think that their hopes are high. I think that they're looking way ahead, just like David did. When he told us he had that 100-day plan, I thought, okay, let's see how that's going to work out. As I told Cassie today, he not only accomplished everything in the 100 days, he did it in less than 100 days. We just didn't hear about it until the 100 hit. So that's how we do business. We move forward. We take care of business. And Mr. Kelly, thank you again. I know it's not the easiest thing to step in, but honestly, I'm just going to say it's easy for you because it's like putting on an old pair of shoes for you. I can see it in you, and I hear it in your voice, and I appreciate that.
Well, yeah. I mean, if this was a brand new deal, first of all, if I would not even consider doing it if it wasn't Flower Bluff. And it is I'm so thankful for you as board members and that same continuum of working with the same folks. And we got an outstanding central office team, outstanding campus leaders. So all I got to do is just sit in here and, make sure there's nothing weird in the background, and everything's going to be fine for these Zoom meetings. So, but no, we are going to do this. There is no other choice. And to truly honor David's memory, we have to move forward. And when Jerry was talking, I was remembering that I went and met him at a Starbucks over on Saratoga. And about 15 minutes into the conversation, I knew in my heart that you guys were going to pick that guy. He's just that type of person. So we'll find another, but they won't be exactly him. So may you rest in peace.
No. All right. Thank you so much for everybody's kind words and for all the hard work. So we're moving forward. That's it. And we'll see each other sooner or later. We don't know which one, I guess, depending on what happens next with the state and anything else that could happen. So at this point, I'm going to adjourn the meeting. Oh, well, I'll just adjourn the meeting at 7:37. Yes.
Ms. Thornton, I believe Mr. Hooper had a question.
Yes, sir.
He's going to make the motion to adjourn. That was it.
Oh, that was
Sorry.
it. Okay. And are we good to go?
Are you asking me?
No, I'm just saying that's it. So can I just, Jerry, didn't you tell me I could just call it over when I wanted to? Okay, we'll take the motion though. And then a second, let me have a second.
Second.
Thank you, Ms. Peters. Now all in favor. All right, we are adjourned at 7:37 p.m. Thank you, everyone.
Right.
Bye.